Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This video is going to be all about the lessons I learned when I was in my 20s slash all the things that I'm grateful that I did when I was in my 20s. So if you're interested in watching that and learning a little bit today, just keep on watching. So this is just going to be like a chit chat video, just talking about my 20s, things that I'm grateful that I did in my 20s, as well as some lessons learned, general advice for those who are still in their 20s. And you don't even have to be in your 20s, you could be in your 30s and this could still apply. I'm going to be doing my makeup while I record this. Can you hear her? She's just like, she's having the time of her life today. So I guess talking about kids, as you can hear her, let me start with that. One of the things that I am grateful that I did was wait till, my late 20s before I started having kids. I got married, if you're familiar with my story or whatever, I got married fairly early. I was 24. Yes, I was 24. I turned 24 that year. I got married. And, parents, everybody, oh, when y'all gonna have kids? When y'all gonna have kids? And I always knew that I didn't want to have my kids right away. But I did want to have all my kids. Me and my husband wanted to have all our kids before, by 30. So we wanted 2 kids by 30, which thankfully we were able to achieve. But I didn't want to start that process too early. And I'm grateful that I did that because once you have kids, okay, yeah, a lot of things change. You don't really have as much. You can make things work. Don't get me wrong. You can still travel. You can still do whatever you want to do, but it just becomes a little bit more challenging. So I'm glad that I waited and was able to do. I'm glad that I waited and was able to do, certain things before having kids. So that's number one. You hear her? You see what I'm saying? Girl, what are you doing? Another thing that I'm grateful that I did was buy a house early on. I'm just gonna let her talk. Yeah? Is that so? Yeah. Okay, I think that works. So we bought our first home when I was 23. No, I was 23, I turned 24 that year. And my husband was 24, I believe. I'm definitely grateful for that because that home specifically has appreciated a lot, almost double from what we bought it at. Not only that, but if you've watched my other videos, I talk about real estate. I'm glad that we started, our real estate investing at the time we did, which was pretty early, about 4 years ago now. We started buying single family homes. We did a flip at one point, and then we started buying multi-family homes. So right now we're at 17 properties. So that's another thing that, again, definitely grateful we started getting into that mid-20s, I guess would say. Started doing that in our mid-20s. And then the next thing as I apply my concealer is just generally investing in the stock market pretty early on. And when I say investing, I mean consistently investing. So every paycheck, I know a certain amount is gonna go towards, stocks and investing in the stock market. And we started doing that right after we got married. We started investing a certain amount of money per month that would go strictly into, stock market. Jesus Christ. Please, can you not make too much noise? All right, so another thing that we did that I'm grateful that we started doing early in our 20s is consistently investing in the stock market. And what I mean by this is designating a certain amount per month that is going towards investing in, stocks. And I'm not gonna lie, don't ask me for investing, stock market investing advice, because that is not my area of expertise. All I do is contribute the money, and sometimes I'll make some suggestions based on what I'm seeing. So like Target, Estee Lauder, things like in my space, beauty, lifestyle that I know about, I, will recommend that, we invest in. But as far as like all these other stuff, I just provide the money and I trust. I always say my husband's the CFO of this relationship. There's been some good input, like the Estee Lauder, that was a good suggestion. Target, that was a good suggestion. Bitcoin, that was a good suggestion. So I've done my part. Don't let me sell myself short. But yeah. So doing that early on, definitely something that super grateful for, because the earlier, especially with money and like investing, the earlier you start, the better. So if you're watching this right now and you're like considering, oh, maybe I should start investing, just start. Even if it's like what I always tell my husband, like even if it's just a little. I rather regret not putting more money into something or investing more money into something than not investing or putting any money at all. So even if it's just little, if you don't have that much like disposable income, even if you're just putting a little, I promise you it'll go a long way. So yeah, that's number 2 or 3 of things that I'm grateful we started doing early on. Third thing, this also kind of goes with the finance thing, is just leaning into like my passions early on and like staying somewhat consistent in it. So like, if you've been following me for a while, I started on YouTube back when I was in college, 2011, I believe. And I was just like, really getting into beauty space, but I had always been like obsessed with hair, and like I'm always changing up my hair and all that kind of stuff. So I started out my channel just doing like random hair tutorials. Then I started getting into like the tags and doing beauty stuff as I got into beauty. And so I'm really grateful that I stuck to doing what I just genuinely love doing, which is like beauty, hair, and just like sharing my favorites and sharing what I love with like my followers and whatnot. Because that obviously grew into a business, right? So right now I'm an influencer on like social media platforms. I'm on TikTok, on Instagram, obviously here on YouTube. But that all started with my YouTube back in college, and just genuinely sharing beauty, hair, all that kind of stuff, just out of like a hobby, I would say, something that I just enjoyed doing. Nobody was paying me for it. So I'm glad that I stuck to it, because at the time I was studying engineering. Courses were tough, but I still, made time to do things that I enjoyed doing. And even after graduating college, I still continue to do it. And I'm glad I did it, because obviously like that led to me posting more on Instagram, getting brand deals on Instagram. And now I make more money doing that than I do my full-time job as an engineer. So that's something that I would highly suggest you. If you have a passion, something you're interested in, you can do both, right? You can do the technical role, you can be an engineer, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, whatever you want to do. But if you have like that creative spirit in you, or just anything else, any other passions, like don't feel like you have to sacrifice, your creative or your even entrepreneurial ambitions for your technical career. So that's another thing that I am grateful that I did. All right, so right now I'm trying to find, sorry, oh, you're about to eat? I was gonna say if you could help me grab her, but she is making a lot of noise. So it's okay. You're laughing, You're laughing. You ready to joke stop? You ready to joke stop? Anyway, so right now I'm about to set this concealer. I have been using this Charlotte Tilbury. It's like a pressed powder. It's not supposed to be like a setting powder, but it works amazing as a setting powder. Let me just blend that out a little bit more before I apply the setting powder. Another thing that I'm grateful that I did, and this kind of goes with what I was saying before, not feeling like you have to pick one. I'm grateful that I, graduated with my engineering degree. I graduated with chemical engineering, and then, working that corporate job, which I'm still in, gaining some skills, which I feel like is something that in your 20s you should be trying to do, is gain whatever skill you can gain. So gaining that skill, getting some of that experience working as an engineer. I've had several roles in the company that I'm in, all within like the engineering space. I even had a small role in like the IT tech space. So just gaining those skills, and then all the things that come with working a job in corporate America. So like your 401k, your pension plan, healthcare, all that stuff. So definitely grateful or glad that I did that. And then what else? So another thing, I'm about to do some contouring. Another thing that I'm grateful for is saving my money, I would say. So like, even though I was making this extra income, you know, as an influencer, creating content for brands, all that kind of stuff, I was literally saving, I'm not joking. Okay, I won't say 100%. I was saving like 99% of all of my extra income. And so that was what was going into buying, you know, income properties, going into, you know, buying extra investments. Like I bought a lot of Bitcoin with some of that. I bought some, you know, I put some money into more money than like the monthly amount into our stock market investing bucket. And just really getting that like habit of saving. So saving, not only obviously I save almost all, if not all of my like extra income that was coming from outside of my full-time job. I say full-time job because like they're both full-time jobs, to be honest. Honestly, this work is more work than my actual full-time job, but I digress. But also saving money from my full-time job. So I had like a certain percentage that I was saving from that as well. And just doing that, as well as like living below your means, because best believe I could be carrying Birkin bags, I could be carrying Louis Vuitton. Well, I'm not into designer like that, so I wouldn't even have been doing that. But I could have been doing a lot more, like, you know, staying at like more expensive hotels, doing a lot more luxurious stuff. But I just decided that I wanted to save that money so that in the future, maybe my 30s, I feel like I can maybe start doing a little more of the stuff now, or later on I can kind of enjoy the fruits of me saving that money and not balling out as much as I could have been in my 20s. So that's another thing I would say that I'm grateful that I did. All right, let me add some bronzer. I'm using the Fenty Beauty Mocha Mami bronzer. I've been using this thing for like 2 years now, almost 2 years. Another thing I would say that I'm grateful that I did in my 20s was just reading books. Not only like, you know, entertainment books like autobiographies, things like that, but also like self-help books, and then listening to podcasts. I cannot tell you how much I have learned from just listening to podcasts and just basically just listening to people who are in my field, especially with this like content creation space, like listening to people who have done it before, listening to people who have knowledge about the industry. Some of the podcasts I used to listen to while I was at work, or on my way to work, I would listen to Side Hustle Pro. I would listen to, what was the other one? Influencer by, what is her name? Julie Solomon, I think that's her name. I would listen to the four when they used to be on YouTube. I think now it's called 4Card. I don't know if they've been posting as much. But all of these things that I was just gaining a lot of information and knowledge about what I should be doing, what I could be doing better with my content, you know, how to structure my shooting schedule. Just a lot of these things I just picked up by listening to podcasts, by reading books. Even when I said autobiographies, yeah, they're entertaining, but they're also inspirational, right? I guess using, you know, audiobooks, which is what I mostly, in terms of reading books, that's usually how I get books in, just listening to audiobooks, especially because I used to have a long commute to work. So listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts really helped me grow. It definitely kept me inspired. I think that's the key thing here. Doing those things like kept me inspired, whether it was reading an autobiography of somebody that I admire, or, you know, listening to podcasts that talked about, you know, tips and tricks and how to do what you need to do to grow, to get brand deals, all this kind of stuff. Just soaking all of that in definitely helped me in my 20s. And that's something that I'm trying to keep doing, because I noticed that when I stop doing those things, I get like less inspired and less encouraged to keep going. So that's a little tip for you. If you feel like you're not inspired, just start listening to podcasts, start reading books that keep you like inspired. What else? Traveling. So yes, this is something that I feel like I should have done more in my 20s. Just traveling more. Although there was like I think 2018, I think I was traveling at least once every month. And I am so glad that I did that, because now obviously with COVID and having kids, it's not as like, I can't just pick up and go like I could. So I'm definitely happy that I did that in my 20s. I honestly wish I did more of it, but it's okay. All right, so I'm gonna do my all over face powder and just kind of blend everything together. I'm also using the Charlotte Tilbury. I always have to open both of them because one of them is for setting under my eyes, and then one of them is my full face powder. So I'm gonna use this little brush and just kind of blend everything together. What else? So yeah, traveling, definitely do that. If you have the opportunity to travel, definitely do that. One of the reasons why I even got into like oil and gas was because, like, growing up, my dad worked in oil and gas, and we used to like move and travel every 3 years to live in a different like city or country. And so that's one of the reasons why I even got into oil and gas, because I wanted to be, jet setting and traveling and stuff. It didn't really work out too well as far as my job goes, but I'm grateful I was able to do it on my own. And even with my, side hustle as a content creator, that year, 2018, when I traveled a lot, I'd say like 70% of that travel was like, working with brands. Like, they would fly me out to different places to do like photo shoots or events and things like that. So I'm grateful that I got that travel in somehow, even though it didn't end up being through work like I originally imagined. What else? So another thing is mentors. So I never really had like a personal mentor per se, which if you can find a personal mentor, like, I feel like that is like a secret weapon that kind of can propel you faster than others, honestly speaking. But nowadays you don't really need a personal mentor, because I have so many mentors that don't even know that they're my mentors. And what I mean by that is, like, there are so many people online that are so knowledgeable and that you can learn from, whether, like I said before, whether it's like a podcaster, whether it's just somebody online that just like is in the space that you're in and just shares their knowledge, whether it's even like paid courses, stuff like that. Like, you can basically find mentors in different spaces. Even if it's a paid course, you can also do that as well. But yeah, just seek out people in your industry or something that you're passionate about or something that you're interested in, I would say, and follow them and just like listen to their advice. That's kind of what I do right now. I have a few people that I look up to. I just follow them, and then I just like listen to their advice that I get for free. Yeah. Okay, so those are like basically all the general things that I feel like I'm glad that I did in my 20s, but I do have some like general advice and just like little tidbits that I wrote down that I wanted to share with y'all. And this is just general advice. You can take it however you want, but one thing I would say is, like, as far as like careers, this is not something that I did, but I saw a lot of my like friends and peers do. Like, don't feel like you have to stick to one. Let's say you graduated college, you're working for one company. Don't feel like you need to stay in that company for like ever, especially if you're not, well, particularly if you're not happy, right? I think I'm the only one out of like my friend group that's literally still with the same company that they started out with out of college. Like, one of my friends was a teacher, then she went into something else, and then now she's a nurse. And another one of my friends is working a job out of college, and now she's like a lawyer. Even my husband, like, he switched jobs like 3 or 4 years ago, different companies, but doing like similar work, but just different company. And then yeah, I could literally name like pretty much all of my friends have switched jobs or switched careers even. So don't feel like, oh man, I studied this thing in college and I have to stick with it for the rest of my life. No, if you're not happy, if the industry is changing, if you found something else that you're interested in, do not feel like you have to stay in your role. I feel like 20s is like the decade to take risks. Cause what's the worst that's gonna happen? Okay, you don't find another job or whatever. You can always go back to school. You can always keep looking for other opportunities. Like, at the end of the day, you are gonna be okay. And you're like 20s is young. 20s is actually very young. It's not, you always, I feel like when I was in my 20s, I feel like, oh, I'm an adult or whatever, but yeah, it's just the beginning of adulthood. So don't feel like you know, you have to commit to something that's not gonna commit to you. Because let me tell you, when those layoffs come around, they're not thinking about you at all. They're just thinking about the money. So yeah, do what's best for you, not what's best for your company. That's just my advice. But what else? But yeah, you have choices. Like I said, don't feel like you're stuck to one job if you're not happy, or if you feel like you can find a better opportunity. Just take the risk and, you know, do it. This one might be a little bit controversial, but so in general, you should listen to your parents' advice. Like, your parents have been there before, and you should listen to what they say and take it into consideration. But one thing I will add to that is sometimes you might want to take it with a grain of salt, because I feel like, and this can go for not just your parents, but like the older generation, right? They lived in a different world. I feel like the past 10 years, talk less of like the past 30, 40 years, things have changed so much. So like the environment that we're living in now is not the same, you know, that existed when they were coming out, right? Like, I feel like the rules have changed, industries have changed, our society in general has changed. So sometimes like the advice that the advice or where they're coming from a lot of times may be outdated. I'm just saying. But in general, like, obviously always listen to your parents. Your parents always have the best intentions for you out of everybody. But also, like, do your own research, right? Like, they're probably not doing the research. They're going off of their own knowledge, which you can't even blame them for, because that's what they know. But do your research. Whenever you're stuck in something, do your research and figure out what's best for you. The other thing I would say in your 20s, like, enjoy life, man. Like, enjoy it.
Any money where I get like this, any little change, now enjoyment. No worry about my future. My future no dey go anywhere. I go to think about my future next year. Any little money or little change, now enjoyment, now gbadu, now flenjo.
All right, I'm pretty much done with my makeup, so I'm just gonna carry her because she is fussing. But yeah, like I said, 20s is early. I mean, you're still young, so just don't take yourself too seriously. Have fun. Another advice I would say is make an effort to stay in touch with people, because like, I feel like during your 20s, everybody has their own thing that they're going through. You know, people are moving from state to state, moving out of the country. Your friends that you were, you know, with in college, they might be in another state and whatnot. So I feel like it's important to try and keep in touch with like your friends and just keep those relationships going. It's something that I feel like maybe, I don't know, I feel like I could have done a better job at, but yeah, just try and keep those relationships strong, because a lot of things happen. A lot of things can happen in a decade. So, you know, you want to have your friends there with you, especially those ones that's like those ones that you've built strong relationships with, whether it was in college, in high school, and so on. So last thing I'll say, the last piece of advice I would give is write down your goals, like what you want in life, what you want to have when you're in your 30s, whatever. Write those goals down and, you know, work towards it, but also realize that like those goals can change, or they may look different, you know, in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years. So write down your goals, work towards it, but also be open for like change. Okay, so I think that is all. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the advice slash lessons learned that I gave y'all. If you're in your early 20s or in your mid 20s, I hope that you take something out of this video. But yeah, if you're in your 30s, or even if you're not in your 30s, what's something that you've learned or you're learning in your 20s? Share it down below in the comments, and let's have a conversation down there about all the things that we've learned in our 20s in the comment section below. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. As always, if you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button And then also follow me on all my other social media platforms. I'm probably most active on Instagram/Instagram stories. So make sure you're following me there. I'm also on TikTok and I'm on Pinterest. I'm everywhere. And I'm everywhere as Talani AV. All right, thanks again so much for watching, and I'll catch y'all on my next one. Bye. Tell I say bye. Bye. You like hearing me talk? You're so quiet when I carried you. You're so quiet when I carry you.